Hello everyone and welcome back to the Passionate Pea Podcast. The podcast where we rank peas.
Why did you do this?
I'm sorry.
I gave him control of the Twitter account, right? Also, can you hear my fan in the background? I've got a fan on because it's warm. Shall I turn it down? Or are we good?
I can't hear it, but I don't know about, the people listening.
I mean, my OBS does do a pretty good job of, cutting out
it's not
noises.
Awful. Yeah.
I can probably turn it down a little bit. Give me a sec. Wow, look at this. Epic start to the podcast.
Yeah, this is a great start. I'm not going to edit any of this out either.
No, this is all going in.
That's less effort for me.
Why did you call it Because I gave him control of the Twitter account for, a few days, and I come back, and the podcast has been rebranded. There's a bunch of memes. What's going on, Sean?
Okay, what it was, right, is I was having a bit of an episode, and I made my Twitter all black, and was being really cryptic on there, and I was like...
You got fluxed.
Well, yeah, what happened, right, is I saw this post about, I think it was, it was just pictures of chips with, gravy, curry sauce, and, mushy peas and stuff, and it was what
pictures.
ones is, the best one. And, the people voting for mushy peas triggered me, because I was like, nah, mushy peas is grim. But I had made my Twitter really, I don't know why, but I just had this really, passionate hatred for mushy peas. I don't know what. This image just brought out anger in me. I was like, oh shit, I need to tweet about this. So, I hopped on the Wild Endeavour podcast and started tweeting out my anti-mushy peas.
And I fully agree with you. They are grim. I'm not a big pea guy in general, if I'm honest. But, mushy peas in particular are just grim. If anyone picks that to save... Number one, if you put, mushy peas on your chips, on top of them...
If you just have mushy peas in general, to be honest. I also don't understand the whole, buying mushy peas, as mushy peas is awful to me. Just buy normal peas and mush them yourself.
It's just grim. But anyway, Doctor Who, I guess.
What? But we've not ranked the peas yet.
We're not ranking the peas.
But Adzinko wanted the peas ranked. It goes Garden, Marifat, and then it goes mushy.
I don't have a strong enough opinion on it. In fact, I don't even know whether I've tried them. I kind of just thought it was garden peas and mushy peas, and that was about the extent of it.
Nah, there's the ones in between that are not as good, but acceptable sometimes.
Is it like apples, where you have Granny Smiths and the other ones? I don't know any of the other names. Granny Smith's the only one I know.
It's fine. I'll teach him about apples for the next episode, and we can have an apple special.
The Wild Apple podcast. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
And that's going to make Apple, as in the real Apple, really happy. As in the tech company Apple. I'm probably going to get sued for that.
Do you want to talk about Beep the Meep now?
No, I'm alright, just talk about apples now. Although, on the topic of apples, I want to say something, right? So I went into the Apple store with John a couple of weeks back. You'll remember this. You was in Cardiff with me, and we were perusing town, and I was like, oh, let's go in the Apple store. And for whatever reason, I was like, these monthly plans for iPhones, I could do a monthly plan for an iPhone.
You could.
Leak money doing decently enough. I could maybe do it. And I was like, excuse me, could I, is that a thing I can do? It's like, oh yeah, do you have a passport? And I was like, what? I was like, yeah, basically, we need a passport or proof of ID. It's to buy a phone. Yeah. What? Is that normal? I was just like.
I get if it's a contract thing or a thing having some sort of form of photo identification.
It's
but
not.
Yeah, I think the specific how specific it was. It wasn't just a photo card. It was had to be a passport or a driving license.
Buying a phone, not a CIA operation.
Yeah.
And I went on the website afterwards, and they wanted a full history of my yearly earnings and shit. I was like, screw that.
To be honest, it was probably a good financial decision that you didn't buy it.
Yeah, it was probably me acting on impulse.
Yeah.
But Doctor Who.
Yes, we're finally here.
Yeah, we're finally here. We had our little introduction of nothing to do with Doctor Who. So where do you want to start? I guess. I mean, Doctor Who filming has naturally been continuing.
Yes.
And it's all been very cool.
That's the thing.
The
There's been
first-
so
yeah.
much that has actually come out since we recorded the last episode.
I mean, what was the last thing, like, in the last episode? Because I don't even remember what was,
Yeah,
like, the
I
newest thing.
can't even remember what we
Like,
spoke about
was
in the last
Unit
episode.
a thing in the last episode?
I think so. Yeah. We definitely knew that Unit were about. I think we
Yeah,
had seen
so
like the
Unit-
uniforms and stuff like that. I think we had seen like a few like pictures of like trucks and stuff.
Yeah. So Unit are knocking about.
Yeah.
But also in... Which one was it? Was it the Cardiff? Yeah, it was the Cardiff
Yeah, it
filming.
would have been the Cardiff filming.
We got shots of some new monsters. One of which was like a giant bug insect-y thing.
Mhm.
Which we all assumed to be the Wrath Warriors from the Doctor Who 70s comics. And
Yeah.
looking at the designs, they're pretty much
Yeah.
identical.
I think ever since we saw what was with them, and we kind of made the
It's-
connection, they just sort of went hand in hand.
And then the other one, as many people know, is Beep the Meep.
Which is
Another
insane. It's such an
Yeah.
obscure, like, I don't think anyone would have thought that Beep the Meep would be turning up in the show.
Can I, full disclosure, before he started filming, I had no idea what a Beep the Meep was. Like,
Yeah.
being completely, I don't know whether you did.
No,
I had no
I've-
clue who he was.
I've heard of Beep
Uh,
the Meep. I've seen Beep the Meep's face on, like, some of the Big Finish, like, comic adaptation
Yeah.
covers, but
Yeah, 'cause
other
they
than
did
that,
do a Big Finish.
yeah, I've never experienced any of the Beep the Meep stories. I've never read
I've never
anything, I've never heard.
experienced Beep the Meep.
Yeah. I've only seen its
Yeah.
face, and I kind of hate it, but,
I feel like the design's not going to be exactly as it was in the comics.
Mm.
That looks slightly terrifying, not in like a good way, in like a what the hell's that kind of way.
Yeah, because isn't
Like-
its gimmick is it's supposed to like pretend to be like cute and like kind of
Yeah.
trick people, but then it's actually like an intergalactic like war.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to lean into the cute angle as much as possible, and like Tennant's going to go, "Oh, it's a little Beep the Beep," and then he's going to like start like chasing him and stuff. Like,
I can't wait
I
for the Beep the Meat plush to come out.
oh yeah,
It's RTD,
Can
so
imagine.
there's going to be merch of absolutely
Plushes.
everything.
plushes, figures, Funko
Yeah.
Pops,
Body
cushions,
pillows.
like yeah, it's going to be everywhere. Beep the Meep, and that Beep the Meep made it to like number 6 on trending.
Yeah, that's
And that wasn't
crazy.
even confirmed either. Like that wasn't a confirmed piece of news. That was just fans being like, "Oh my god, is Beep the Meep really coming back?" Which is mental. Like, it's just, I think what it is emblematic of, and I've kind of alluded to this maybe on main channel videos and maybe on here before as well. Like in RTD's first era, right, he had to kind of be restrictive in who he brought back. So, in his first era, you basically get the main ones, don't you? So you get the Daleks, Cybermen, Master, Time Lords, and then you get a couple of, B or C listers like the Autons and the Macro, stuff like that.
Mhm.
He couldn't go too wacky with it because Doctor Who was still too young.
Yeah, he was
It's
still
got
like
to-
he was still bringing the show back even by
Yeah.
series 4. It had only just fully like properly been established.
But now, 9 series have passed, which actually feels mental to say, but that's how many series have passed since he left the show. And, more wacky alien things are kind of much more commonly accepted by not only Doctor Who, but pop culture in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I
you
kinda
just have
feel
to
like-
look at Marvel for that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. Yeah, that franchise. The main plot is big giant space alien purple man is stealing a bunch of space stones.
Yeah, and that was
people
the
are
biggest
okay
thing.
with- yeah, people are more than okay with these wackier premises now.
Mhm.
So I think RTD is fully embracing that. He's basically doing, for lack of a better term, all the things he couldn't do in his first era for whatever reason. It's RTD fully unchained and just fully going for it. And I think that's really cool.
Because it's not just for this first season. It also, I guess, almost kind of makes sense as well for such a big event like the 60th.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. When it comes to anniversaries, it's normally the case that you get quite... the traditional fare is an average, multi-doc story. You might get a couple of returning villains in there for the iconography, right? What this is doing is it's celebrating Doctor Who's more obscure parts.
Yeah.
We'll get into the other villain that we know about, or what we think we know about anyway. And I love that. I think it's a really neat way of celebrating an anniversary in a less conventional sense. Because I love, the typical multi-doctors, but I do admit, I think if you do too many of them, they can be a bit, like, formulaic, would perhaps be the word.
Yeah, I get
like,
that, yeah. I'm not against, like, you know, Matt Smith and Peter
Oh, I'm
Capaldi and
not. I
whoever
want
showing
them
up. Yeah.
back, like, don't get me wrong. But I think this is an interesting new way of doing an anniversary. And I like it for that
I really
reason.
like it, it's not, yeah.
Like, I like that it's not just, oh, look, time's going all funny, there's an alien, and we
because
need
it's
to stop
doing
it.
something new with and even the format, like this being, it is confirmed at this point. It is going to be 3 specials. We don't have to like dance around.
There's
that.
no way it's just one special at this point with how much they've been filming and how early.
Yeah.
This is the thing as well. I want to talk about this. They're filming so early. I think some of this is going to come quicker than we are.
This is going to be a Christmas special. I think I've made the links because the Christmas lights in Camden, all of the December dates on like the posters in the toy shop and stuff like that. It has to be.
Toy theme in general is very festive in itself.
It's that thing as well. If it's going to be 3 specials as well, like you're going to need one like pretty like a lot earlier on than the others. And if it's not Christmas, I can see it totally being like New Year. Like it's going to be like a festive.
If they can't get the Christmas slot, you know, it'll be New Year. But I think RTT will want the Christmas slot.
I would like the Christmas slot.
I love. He said before how much of an honor it is to be able to do stuff on Christmas and how much he loves doing stuff on Christmas. And I think
it's just such a nice like thing. Like on Christmas Day, you've opened all your presents, you're with
family,
so nice. And then it's like you also have a Doctor Who episode to watch. And like in the past, they've been a bit naff, especially like.
I still
think
even the naff ones though, they have like their
they had charm
to them.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just because it's Christmas Day and like everyone's just like vibing. You're just having good times.
And I think it's going to feel even more that way with David Tennant and Catherine. Like that's going to feel magical in itself. Seeing those guys on screen again and seeing all these different things they've got planned. That's going to add a level of like, wow, this feels like an event sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like
it's going to be
like, even.
It's going to be wild though because when is the centenary? Is it October time?
Yeah.
We're going to have that. 13's going to regenerate or whatever happens. And then, like, 2 months later, we're probably going to have, like, the first special. That's mad.
I like that.
I like that. Yeah, I like that as well, because it's like, you're not waiting about too long.
Yeah, because my thing is, like, Russell's always said it, I think he's said it before, like, the biggest detriment to the show is when it's like not on for long periods of time, like when there's like long gaps of like nothing happening, and I agree.
This is why.
Think,
I'll let you say what you want. Yeah.
I was going to say like I think one of the biggest mistakes this era made initially was doing Series 11 and then waiting a year to do Series 12.
Oh yeah, the year
I think
gaps
that was one of the year gap was one of the biggest mistakes they made. Because whether you like Series 11 or not, which I wasn't a big fan of at the time, it did do well viewing figures wise. Like, Doctor Who was, for a brief moment, back in, like, general talking points again. But, like, rather than capitalise on that, they were instead, let's leave it for a year. And I just thought, you ruined your chance. Everyone's been talking about this for a little bit, and now everyone's going to forget it exists for a year. Like, yeah. I always thought that was one of their biggest mistakes.
This is why I'm for a kind of MCU-esque style thing with Russell, which he has proposed and said he would like to do. But the thing is, when he said that, I totally just see it being like how we had Torchwood and Sarah Jane. Like,
I'd be more than happy with that, yeah.
Because then when Doctor Who isn't on, Doctor Who is kind of still on all year round. You've got your children's show, you've got your adult show. And the thing is about both of those shows is both of them had their own independent audiences as well outside of Doctor Who, which is a bit mad to me, but I know like people that grew up only watching Sarah Jane and people saying that they had only watched Torchwood.
Well, this is like, the thing I've said before, like, when I was a kid, obviously, like, I was one of the few people in my house who actually liked Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So in the evenings it wasn't, like, priority watching for my family always. Yeah. So Sarah Jane was kind of my gateway into Doctor Who without being able to always watch Doctor Who on broadcast. So for me, it filled a gap that like wouldn't have been there like had it not been there. You know, I don't think I'd have been as invested in Doctor Who as I was as a kid if there wasn't also Sarah Jane Adventures accompanying it. Because of course, you know, I tried to watch the main show when I could.
Yeah.
Like, but I couldn't. It wasn't always possible because when you're a kid, you don't have control over what's on the TV. Like, you know, you don't always get a first pick when you're in a family with multiple people. But yeah, this
is what I think like Russell was meaning in that vein of having like his own MCU universe.
I think
it's like
I'm
maybe
fine
having
with
like
that.
2 or 3 different spin-offs all running together within the same universe. Kind of like how they all came together and stuff like Journey's End and stuff like that. Like, it was this massive, big, interconnected universe, but it was accessible for other people.
That I'm fine with. I agree. I think that's a good idea. I think what scares me about the MCU prospect is just as I said, the MCU is a thing. I've kind of been struggling to stay invested in it, especially recently,
I get that, yeah.
with how much they're pumping out. And I just don't want Doctor Who to get to quite that same level of saturation, where it's like, I just can't be bothered to keep up with it all. But, equally, I think what I would like is what he did in his first era. Like, I think that works for me. I think I'd be more than happy with that. I just don't know whether I want much more than that.
Yeah.
You know
I would say like 3 spin-offs at like the most. I guess it just depends how they did it and if like it was like limited runs of stuff and whatever. But I do think it's a good way.
It's pretty likely we're at the very least getting like some sort of confidential thing.
Oh yeah.
Because even if you take away the rumours, we've already seen people filming for like not the main show. Like we've already seen like Russell filming little bits and sort of stuff on set, and like Russell going to set and filming little bits. So I think it's pretty likely we're going to get some sort of supplementary like material in that way. So maybe just like as you said, like 2 or 3 main drama spin-offs. I'd be more than happy.
Because because regarding like Russell's first era, like it's not really stuff we even think about as like spin-offs, but you know we had stuff like Totally Doctor Who. Like it was always kind of around.
Yeah,
even, like, and had a presence.
Got played on like CBBC and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember that, like the Infinite Quest and Dreamland.
Yeah, it's like I agree. I think that I'm fine with. I think as well, what people don't, I think, realise, or at least some people don't, is that it's kind of a miracle we got all of those shows at once on a BBC budget with like one guy spearheading a lot of it. Like the thing is now he's got more of an infrastructure to maintain that. Like he's got what is essentially a whole company that are going to be dedicated. Obviously they make other things, but they're going to be dedicated to making Doctor Who. It's not a division of the BBC, it's like their own production company, which should theoretically allow them more resources to do things like spin-offs.
When Russell took over, he started a production company and called it Whoniverse. We're 100% going to be getting more than just the show itself.
Which I am happy about as long as they don't go too far. You know what I mean? As long as they don't go too far in that direction where it's like, oh look, every like month you get like a new Doctor Who show. It's like I do just think it's going to be that thing of like it's keeping the show on air when Doctor Who can't be on air. I think I'm fine with that. I think as well, what does make me slightly worried about something like that is Big Finish as well.
Yeah,
the thing is like somewhat similarly with Big Finish where they've just kind of made. Obviously, I love some Big Finish. Don't get me wrong.
No. I 100% agree with like the point you're trying to make. Like Big Finish is completely oversaturated. I guess my thing with Big Finish though, it's like I feel like Big Finish is good for the fact that you can just kind of like it's like a pick and mix.
Yeah.
You can pick and enjoy the bits you like, and it kind of has everyone covered in that respect. Like it has like really obscure stuff, and it has like obviously really popular like.
And I think that's cool, but I do just think there are some things where it does just sort of feel like they're throwing a dart.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like every like few box sets you'll get like it's like River Song and The Monk with like
the Third Doctor and Harry Sullivan or something. It's like what is this? What am I looking at? Don't get me wrong.
Or they'll just like cram like a series of stories in the Monk's like a 2-second scene. You're like okay.
Or how all the Ninth Doctor stuff is pre-rose, which I understand why it was done, but
I don't mind that. I've never minded that because
that's fair.
Because you see, even like when you go to like Clive's, like I know like in the Rose novelization it's said that he does all that like
I guess, the bit.
But I'm like I sort of feel like there was room. It's just that mirror scene, I suppose. When you're like, I can let it slide. I don't know. I like Ninth Doctor.
Like that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair. I I think my point with Big Finish though is just that like they do so much and they do so many like random things.
Yeah.
And I kind of just don't want Doctor Who to become that, where I feel like spin-offs are just existing for the sake of spin-offs existing. I want it to be like a good idea first. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to just throw stuff out there, which I don't think they would.
Well, it's funny. It's funny. I made a tweet earlier about that. Like, I think Oliver Bennett replied, or maybe it was David actually, and they were like, "Oh," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I like how Russell's doing the Big Finish approach. It's just like throwing darts, you know. Beep the Meep with the Celestial Toymaker."
But
we've not
like
spoken about it yet.
The reason, we haven't spoken about it. We'll get into the Celestial Toymaker in a sec. But the reason I like it here, where it doesn't work in perhaps Big Finish, is because this is like a one-off event story thing.
Yeah.
With Big Finish, it's like 90% of their catalogue at this point. And I think if these story events that they're doing with like the Celestial Toymaker and Beat the Meep and David Tennant and all that, if they became like a regular yearly thing, I'd be a bit like, no.
The thing is, it's like a one-off, but they're also incredibly obscure characters.
Yes.
Like, to the mainstream, right? No one's going to know who the Toymaker is. Unless you're like a hardcore fan.
I mean, to be honest,
like,
I haven't
he's from like a lost story.
Like, I know who the Toymaker is.
He's from a lost story from the first Doctor era.
Yeah, I think what's cool about, like, like with the Toymaker specifically, and Beat the Meep as well, because there's so little of them, or what they are so obscure, it does kind of give you some creative license to be like, okay, well, you know, we can do some cool things with these. I think that kind of, it's a problem with any long-running franchise, I think, where when stuff gets sort of cemented into the lore, perhaps it makes them, like, you can sort of do less with them, if that makes sense. Whereas with more obscure characters, because they're more obscure, it kind of gives you more opportunity to mix it up a bit. You know what I mean? Like, I think like someone made a good point to me. Like with like comic characters, the more obscure ones they can do just sort of batshit stuff with. Yeah. Because you know they're not being put on like the big screen and stuff. Once they get like a Marvel movie or something, they tend to all sort of fall more in line to like what the movies are like. Whereas like more obscure characters can kind of just do whatever they want. And I kind of think that's what Russell's writing from that perspective of these characters. Yes, okay, there are some, you know, fans like us who know who the Toymaker is or vaguely who Beat the Meep is, but like, let's be honest. Before this was all announced, are there really that many die-hard Celestial Toymaker and Beat the Meep fans? I don't think there are. No. And I think that's what allows them the opportunity to just go wild with them, and I like that. But yeah, talking of the Celestial Toymaker, it got announced very randomly. What was it? Yeah, it was the day before yesterday, right? As we're recording this.
I think
so like the 13th, I think, 12th, 13th, something like that. Yeah. It got dropped that Neil Patrick Harris is joining the cast of Doctor Who. Initially, we didn't know what as. There were obviously a lot of theories. The main one being the Celestial Toymaker, because prior to
it was between that or the Valiard. They were the two most I saw thrown around.
Like we'd seen on set before he was announced, like that circus poster of like, ooh, what's this? Could it be the Toymaker or something? And I think we'd seen like grabber machines and stuff as well, which was sort of very like fun fair, toy circus vibes. So everyone was like, that's the Toymaker's thing. And then obviously the picture got dropped, which is apparently
an in-costume shot.
Yeah, which is interesting. Of him in this sort of Geppetto style, almost like sort of toy fixer sort of
really
workshop
cool look,
man sort of look. I think Geppetto is probably the best way I can describe it, because that's basically what it is. You know, he's got the big white hair, the little glasses, like the little workshop tools, which made a lot more people think, Toymaker. And then obviously Russell confirmed, along with the announcement that he was playing a villain, you know, he said like, oh, Doctor Beware and all this sort of stuff. He said like this is going to be like the biggest threat the Doctor's ever come. Which, to be fair, that's what made me think, is it not the Toymaker for that reason? Because can you really consider the Toymaker the Doctor's biggest like threat?
I mean, he is like an Eternal or something. I don't know.
He is an Eternal, apparently, and you can also make the Toymaker is one of the characters that has the potential to be really dangerous. If you've got the budget for it, the Toymaker can do some like. It comes back to what I've said before. Because he's so obscure, you can kind of just do whatever you want with him, and I feel like that's exactly what they're doing. They're really like making him a proper big deal, and I love that. Like I love that for the Toymaker.
Like, I have seen people like kind of speculating that he could be a Time Lord only because of the announcement they put the two hearts.
Yeah,
And, like,
although my one counter to that, even though I agree with you, I mentioned that I think on one of the live streams. Like,
okay.
someone did point out that for Rachel Talale's announcement, they had
But you see, she did hers herself though.
That's true.
So
That is
it's
true.
like that wasn't like an official one. Yeah, I don't know. It's just because of Yasmin.
Unless
Finney's
they are
character.
retconning it so the Celestial Toymaker is a Time Lord, because like
Maybe, or maybe
correct me if I'm
maybe
wrong.
there's just more there than we know.
Correct me if I'm wrong though, but like I think him being eternal was like a retroactive thing. It wasn't in the original story. It was like something that was done by the expanded media and stuff.
Possibly,
Obviously, I'd rather than stay to what is being established in the expanded media, but if they want to change it so that he's something to do with the Time Lords as well, I don't really mind too much. Like,
I'm just at this point. I'm excited to see what they do.
Yeah, and obviously talking about Neil Patrick Harris, obviously talk a bit about him. He's
I've
like
not
a
seen him in
massive
much.
get.
Yeah.
I'd say I've seen him in more, maybe. I've seen him in. The main thing I know him from, obviously How I Met Your Mother I know, but like I haven't watched a lot of. I'm not a big American sitcom guy, like.
Yeah, no, me
like
neither.
but I've seen a bit of it. But the main thing I've seen him in recently, obviously It's a Sin. He was in the
It's a
first
Sin,
couple episodes. But the main thing I've seen him in is a series of unfortunate events. Like,
Okay, yeah.
plays Count Olaf, who's like the main sort of campy villain who's trying to steal these like orphans' like fortune that they've inherited from their parents, right? And in that, he plays a very camp, over the top, theatrical villain.
Okay.
So as soon as I saw that he was playing a big Doctor Who villain for like RTD2, I was like, yeah, this completely makes sense. It comes back to what we were saying about like shooting. You know when a casting just clicks and you're like, yeah, I can see that. I had the same thing with Neil Patrick Harris, where I was like, yep.
I think even seeing from the filming pictures today when he's like wearing that kind of like
that
frock
sold
or
me.
something like that, like I can totally see that performance coming from that.
Exactly. I think the thing that like made me sold on him as a villain was, as you mentioned, the thing of him like dancing around like the street as like chaos was erupting, and I'm like, yeah, this is just going to be cool. I can just already tell I'm going to enjoy his presence. I think that's something we were saying on call before we started. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but this already feels like a Russell Doctor Who episode.
Oh yeah,
Even just by the filming.
That's that's the thing. I was
whole
looking at like the set design, like the London taxis. Yeah, even like the other day there was some other filming going on. You saw like unit van be like tossed up into the air and explode.
Yeah.
The scale of this for such like small scenes from the looks of things as well. It's like. Yeah, this has quite a big budget.
I do think this is going to be something like the most visually impressive Doctor Who we've ever had. Like,
the thing is, we're seeing that from like someone that's just filming on their phone, and it already looks pretty great. This is like a Rachel Talalay directed episode as well, like arguably one of the greatest, directors Doctor Who's had.
Yeah, speaking of her, actually, did you hear that she got COVID?
Yeah, I saw like today. Yeah, she's like having to. That must be hard.
Yeah.
How do you direct from like home?
But how dedicated is that though?
Oh yeah, I
Working
respect it.
from
Yeah,
him directly. Like Talalay, Rachel Talalay just seems so lovely and like just so nice. And like I'm so glad. I think the thing is, a lot of people are like, oh, I think a big concern, or not concern, but something that people noticed with Russell was that he tends to keep it to people he's worked with, right? Like he's got. I mean, I think all showrunners do that. Like, people villainising Russell for that.
You're going to have your
most
biases, you're going to, like, stick with the people you
most
know.
of Chibnall's cast were, like, Broadchurch people.
Yeah.
So,
it's like if you know that someone can do the job, and it's like you already have that connection, you know, you're probably going to hit them up first.
And, exactly. I think every showrunner has people they work with and like, and, I think that's perfectly fine. But Rachel Talalay is one of those ones who's predominantly known for being a Moffat director.
Yeah.
And it's nice to me that he saw how talented she was and went, yes.
Yeah, it's also just how big of like a fan of the show she is as well, like how like outspoken like she has been about it, like even like the trailer and stuff like that.
I think that's the thing. It just comes back to it's just the passion on display. Just it's like when Russell's announcing things as well, when he's like, "Oh, Doctor Beware," and then like,
that's
evil. Yeah, it's teasers and.
something about this entire production team is like everyone seems like they want to be here. They all are on.
Do you know what it is? Doctor Who feels fun again.
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing because obviously, on set behind the scenes, Jodie, Mandip, whoever, they look like they have great chemistry.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and I think a lot of people would agree with me here, doesn't quite translate as well when it gets to the screen. Like,
no.
It feels like it's going through an unfortunate filter almost. Where
the thing is, unlike Jodie and Mandip, though, whenever you see Chris Chibnall in interviews, he always looks miserable.
Yeah, I think the thing with Chibnall is he seems like a nice guy, but he's not.
He's not the face of a brand. He's not the writer you send out to do panels and whatever. He's very behind the scenes. He writes the scripts and then.
Which, in retrospect, made him a weird choice for showrunner.
I don't know. I don't think you have to be good with the public to necessarily be good at showrunning a show. However,
I do think it's part of it, though. I do think you need that element of showmanship. Russell had it, Moffat had it as well. You do need to be able to promote the show in such a way.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if that necessarily lies on the person writing it, as it does.
Possibly not.
Because I do think there's a lot of flaws in Chibnall as in his team and his promotional type stuff.
I'm not saying
I think that more lies on his. Yeah, I think that more lies on his team.
But I do think there's a difference in just how interactive Russell has been and how secluded and cut off.
Well, that's the thing. It's
it's
Russell.
2 different approaches, right? But
Russell loves the show. He loves being in the light.
Yeah, he wants the show. Yeah. He wants people to be talking about the show constantly.
Mm-hmm.
He will happily drop anything, to make sure we're all talking about it. Chibnall's more I've got these, these grand secrets, and I'm going to keep them all in my little box, and then I'm going to surprise you all. And, it doesn't always quite work out that way. I respect his freedom to do that. I just prefer it when we actually have stuff to talk about.
Yeah, it's trying to find that good middle ground. I think of
I think Russell's of
seeing things, but there are those little twists and turns and mysteries that we don't quite know yet. It's we know the rough outline of things. It's okay, so the story's going to feature these. It's probably going to go a bit like this, but in reality, we don't really know anything about this special, other than who's in it. And a few cool explosion shots. Yeah.
But I think that's all I think the thing is, a fan base needs ammunition.
Yeah.
It needs something to talk about. And the problem is, they haven't really been willing to do that. Even with Find the Doctor, right?
They're just kind of fizzled out after a few days.
Well, I think the big issue with Find the Doctor was there was nothing cool at the end.
Yeah.
Everyone did all that work, and it was just. Here's a JPEG of Jodie Whittaker saying congratulations.
It's awful.
It's if they'd have dropped a surprise little scene or something, or a little trailer or a little anything, anything would have been better than that. And I think that's the thing. What I like about the social media posts for Russell is obviously they are just social media posts, but they've got something cool. As soon as you see those 2 hearts or that diamond, alright, stuff's about to go down. Everyone get hyped. Mm-hmm. And it is just that, it's a fun, interactive thing. Someone pointed out to me as well, you notice how each announcement has kind of catered to a different demographic? So you got Shooty and Yasmin appeal to younger generation, Netflix generation. David and Catherine, obviously they appeal to your legacy fans, your long-time fans.
Yeah.
And then Neil Patrick, he's known internationally, so he appeals to international viewers. I don't know whether that was intentional. If it was, then that's genius.
That is really
They are literally rounding up everyone they can find.
They're trying to appeal to absolutely everyone. Yes, you should watch this. It's going to be great. It's going to be marvelous.
And it seems to be working because the amount of tweets I've been seeing regularly being I haven't watched Doctor in ages, but I'm really tempted with these.
Yeah, the amount of checkmark Twitter accounts I just see tweeting about it now, just from random accounts. You're just okay, this is cool. I didn't even know you knew what Doctor Who was, but
exactly.
Cool.
And it's just so nice to see Doctor Who in a good position again. I know that people are going to debate the success of the previous era, but to me, it's not just look at how much it's trended over the past few days. Some variation of Doctor Who has been trending for multiple days in these past couple of weeks. We've had Beat the Meep, Neil Patrick Harris, David Tennant, you know, all these different words, just Doctor Who itself, all been trending for multiple days, you know. That hasn't happened for Doctor Who in a long time, where it's consistently been trending, consistently having tabloid news articles made about it, and Russell knows exactly how to get that kind of attention.
Well, I mean, that's what's needed anyway, and I don't mean just, like, the show in general. I mean, we're coming up to the 60th year, you know,
exactly.
And if these specials are starting as soon as what, you know, we think they could, it's like, now is the perfect time to be getting this stuff out, to be building hype, to be getting this audience on board that have almost fizzled out over the last 5 years. Which is why
it's so weird to me, and I don't want to make this a big point of the podcast, because I've already kind of spoken about it at length in other places, other videos. But it's why it's so weird to me that some people are so opposed to this, like, new era showing anything. Like, it's the anniversary. Like, it should be a big deal, you know?
It should be, yeah. It's just that thing of, like, they can't exactly hide it either.
No. Like, I'm not going to name the person, but I generally saw someone say, oh, they should just film inside until Jodie has had her final episode. And I'm
no, that's dumb.
That's just not how television works.
Yeah.
And also, you would deliberately handicap another production for months just so you can watch Jodie Whittaker leave without interruption, and you can have 5 months of radio silence.
I would argue this is doing like better things for the centenary. Like, if people weren't speaking about the show, we would have nothing right now. We would have silence. We'd be waiting for this thing to, like, come along. Maybe we'd get a trailer, like, 2 weeks before. It would happen and it would end. But now, you know, we have all this other stuff. Like, Doctor Who's constantly in the news, on the timeline. People are speaking about it. They're hyped. It's like, I'm not that particularly hyped for the centenary, but I know I'm gonna... I know I said that I wasn't going to watch it, but I will watch it.
Yeah.
And, you know?
And the thing is, it's probably going to tie into the Russell stuff as well.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. It's like, people are going to watch it because it's the big Jodie regeneration episode, whether it's bad or not.
I think the problem is, for whatever reason, some Doctor Who fans feel the need to pitch other parts of Doctor Who against each other.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, I've done this as well. I'm not going to pretend like I haven't. But
I think we all
we all feed into it slightly, where we're like, oh well, this Doctor Who is doing things that this Doctor Who wouldn't do, and at the end of the day, when you boil it down, it's all Doctor Who, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of what our opinions are on each period of it, pitting it against each other, it feels really odd.
It's that thing of, like, if you're excited for the centenary, be excited for the centenary. Me being excited for the stuff that comes after, like, shouldn't take away your excitement for that, and vice versa.
Yeah.
You being excited for that shouldn't take away my excitement. It's like we can all just like the things we like, as long as we're not, like, going at each other, being like, "Oh no, you're not allowed to like that." Like that's where the toxicity comes from.
This whole overshadowing argument makes very little sense to me as well, because as I said before, this has happened like every single other time, and I just find it weird that now it's an issue. Like, you know. I mean, if you really want to talk about, you know, Doctors being overshadowed, in Matt's penultimate episode, you know, there's 2 other Doctors sharing his screen time, and you get a cameo for the next Doctor in it, with Peter Capaldi. Obviously, and you get the curator with Tom Baker at the end. Obviously, that was the 50th, but no one complained at any point that Matt was
exactly,
then.
I think you could argue the same with, like, Peter Capaldi as well. Like, his last episode was, like, with the first Doctor, and, like, the whole thing was, like...
And Jodie had her companions announced, she'd been announced, her costume had been announced, all before Peter left.
Yeah, months before,
So, where was this energy then, is my question. And why is it now that it's not acceptable for the show to promote other things? I just think, if they've got nothing to show for the centenary, which they obviously haven't if they don't want us to see anything, or they don't want to show us anything for the centenary, and there's a gap in the schedule where there's nothing else being released, what's the harm in Russell doing these announcements? And as we've said, he's doing them, like, literally a couple of days before they're filming in public.
Yeah.
He couldn't leave these much later if he tried.
No. Yeah,
you know?
he literally announces the thing, and then, like, the day after, they're shooting the thing.
It's like, what more do you want? Like, I know he said he'd be quiet, but to me, this is still him being quiet.
Yeah,
Like,
it's just him
he's
getting
still-
ahead of the leaks. If it wasn't him putting it out there, it would be a newspaper, like The Sun or something.
I think when he said, "Oh, we're going to be quiet now," I think people went, "Right, it's going to be another 6 months of radio silence," which is what people are used to.
Yeah.
But like, that's not how RTD rolls. His definition of quiet is, every few weeks you might get like a casting drop, but nothing more until
Yeah.
Jodie
Yeah,
leaves.
I mean,
That's his
that's the
definition of quiet.
thing. Russell has not given away any like
Plot
massive
details
plot
or
details.
anything.
Yeah,
No.
he's literally just given out like who'll be in it, and we don't even know like the extent of
I mean,
that
they
yet.
didn't even confirm. I mean, Bernard Cribbins and Jacqueline King were on set for the Camden filming. He didn't make an announcement out of them. He could have done, but he didn't. Like,
yeah, exactly.
and I think this is the thing. People getting weirdly personal towards Russell for him doing his job is really weird to me. I don't get it. Like, it's just odd to me how people are like, I've seen people be like, they're going to deliberately nitpick at this era before they've even seen it. And I'm
That's
like,
just really
why?
petty. Yeah,
You're just
that's
being
just really
petty
sad.
for no reason. And it's as I've said before, no one, or at least not any of the people I know, went into the Jodie era with the express desire to be like, I want this to be terrible. I'm going to hate it.
Yeah, I
No.
think it's that thing of like what a lot of Capaldi fans feel like now. Of like at the time, their era was kind of like kind of looked down upon. Like people were tuning out and they're like, "Oh, this isn't the best." I kind of feel like that's what the Whittaker era has kind of turned into, where it's like, oh yeah, people don't really like this within like the mainstream,
Yeah, it's almost seen as like a weird,
we're kind of like the
underdog story type
yeah,
thing.
we're the
like
underdogs. It's like I get that to an extent. Like sure, it does feel a bit shitty when you're like the only like select few or whatever that seems to really be into and enjoy this thing, and everyone else is just shitting on it all the time. But at the same time, you don't have to tear down like our things just because you feel bad.
And I think the thing is, right, if if you're not a fan of like what they're doing with the Russell era, fair enough. If you don't want to watch it, fair enough. But why be like? Because I've seen people like messaging Russell saying like, "Oh, you're a liar for saying that you were going to keep quiet and stuff." It's like, leave the man alone.
At the point where you're like going after like writers and the people involved.
Yeah, and what gets me too is that this is exactly what happened. Like, this is exactly what people say happens with Chibnall, but now it's fine because it's not Chibnall. Like, I don't
there's that
get
like
it.
weird double standard thing there.
And I don't even think people have been that harsh to Chibnall in terms of. I've not seen anyone personally.
I can't say. Maybe I don't know. I think he has.
Obviously,
like,
some
things in the
people.
mail and
Obviously,
stuff.
he has had some terrible stuff, but I've never seen someone DM him being like, "Ha ha."
To be fair,
you're
they can't.
shit.
He's not really online, is he?
I suppose, but
I do think he's spoken about getting like hate mail and stuff like that. Like, I do think he's had a few death threats in his time.
Oh,
which,
probably. No.
Totally
I
like
probably
unacceptable.
I probably should rephrase what I'm saying. What I'm getting at is like, and with Moffat as well. He went to panels and was like booed at panels and stuff. Chibnall has deliberately shielded himself from that energy, which is fair enough. But I just, do you know what I'm trying to say? It's like, why is this energy being targeted at writers in general? Like, I don't like a lot of what Chibnall's done. I've been very vocal about it. I've never personally attacked the guy. I've never gone, you're a liar, you're this, you're that. I've questioned a lot of his decisions.
Yeah.
But he seems like a lovely guy.
That's the thing. Like, be critical of the work, not the people. Unless if they're like genuinely iffy and like do some like horrible
that's another
stuff.
thing. People are trying to dig up things about Neil Patrick Harris from like 12 years ago, and I'm like, why are you doing this, man? Like, what are you gaining from this? Like, he said something 12 years ago and apologized for it immediately after. Wow, what a story. What a revelation. It's like, and the thing is, what annoys me too, and I think William who pointed this out, and he's 100% right. This is exactly what Phasmin people did to John Bishop when he was announced, and they did it because they weren't happy because it
was another white guy.
Another white guy, and Jodie and Yaz weren't going to be the first all-female TARDIS team, whatever, But after Flux came out, he became one of the most loved parts of that era.
He's now protector of the lesbians, like, within that community.
And it's like, it's amazing to me how the tables turn so quickly with these people, how fickle they are in the sense of, like, oh yeah, we'll happily cancel this person because it's what we think we don't want, but also 5 months, 6 months down the line, we'll be saying how great they are and how much we love them. Like, it's really weird. And I think, I don't know, I feel like some people just need to just chill out, you know?
If you're looking for stuff to like be upset about, it's like, that's just really weird to me. It's like you're like actively going out of the way to dig up stuff. It's like see if you know that stuff already and you're like, oh okay, that's a bit weird, that makes me uncomfortable. Fair enough, right? I'm not gonna like hold that against you, you know. But if you're like actively like going out of your way to like, you know, look up and like, oh, let's dig into this guy's past and see if we can cancel it. It's like, come on, like get a life at that point.
Yeah, and I saw this a lot with like Russell. Like even when Russell had been announced, people were looking back at past episodes and being like, is this problematic? Question mark. Obviously to bring up.
Oh I've seen that
human nature discourse. It's like I'm not even gonna go into it all, but like people seem to have it in their heads that this, you know, massively acclaimed episode is shit because of like dumb reasons, and it's like you're just looking for reasons to dislike this guy at this point. Which it wasn't even a story he wrote either. It's like, and even then, Paul Cornell's one of the most left-wing writers the show's ever had. Like, I don't know. There just seems to be this weird level of tribalism, and I just hope that it calms down soon. Maybe once the centenary stuff does gear up, in like, you know, the day before it releases, people will be like, oh yeah, you know, we got the thing we want, happy. But I don't know. There's this weird childlike.
I do feel like when it does start coming out, though, like these people that are like doing all this stuff now, like I do see that going away, like how it did with John Bishop. It just depends. It depends if it's like they're going into it with the same minds they did that, and not the I'm going to be really petty and, you know, nitpick.
I get the feeling some of them are going to be in that.
Oh yeah. I don't doubt that for a second.
And I have said this before, and I do stand by it. If all you're going to do going forward with Doctor Who, before stuff even comes out, because the difference is, right, the difference between what's happening now with these people who don't like what Russell's doing and people who didn't like the Chibnall era, we at least waited until we'd seen it to give our opinions on it.
That's like, the thing. We're wary of the centenary because we've seen like all the stuff that's come before.
Yeah. It's not
and the thing is, we're not even shitting on it yet. Yeah, we're not even. Yeah, we're just like, oh, I think it will be, but I'm still going to give it a chance, and I hope to be proven wrong.
The 60th is David Tennant's got a new costume, Catherine Tate's back, and it's going to be like Celestial Toymaker and beat the Meep. Like probably, it's like, why are you getting annoyed at this? Like, there's nothing to be annoyed at, other than it's not the thing you want. You know, it's not. I feel like if it was, imagine everything that was filming right now, everything that was happening right now, even with Russell coming back, was all the same, but instead of David Tennant, it's Jodie Whittaker. I feel like these fans would be absolutely fine with that. I feel like it's just because it's not like their Doctor, and I get it, you know, it's hard when a Doctor leaves, you know, and you feel you're losing, you know,
when your Doctor goes, you know, yeah,
and it's like, it must feel even weirder too that the next one is probably like a previous beloved incarnation of the character. Yeah, that is, I can understand why that feels wrong. At the end of the day, though, you saying, Russell, blah, blah, you're not going to change anything by doing that. It's already being filmed. Yeah. It's happening whether you want it to happen or not at this point. Like, you can either be along for the ride, or you can remain bitter, or you can just stop watching it. Like, or just not watch the 60th. I don't know. I don't want to make like this too much of a big thing, but it has annoyed me because it just feels like the fan base will never be happy. Because to me, Russell's literally pulling out all the stops to make.
I don't think select parts of the fan base will ever be happy. And I do think it's just kind of like how, like, I think it's just a fan thing, and I think it's just a thing with a show like Doctor Who as well. It's like, the fandom is never going to be happy, like, all of the fandom all at one time, because people enjoy the show for different things, and, like, everyone, like, has their own era, like, their own style of stories. It's like, Doctor Who is a franchise that can do anything, like, tell any type of story. It's why, like, you know, so, like, the stories, like, some of the stories you really like, I'll be like, no, and, like, you know, vice versa.
some of the ones you like, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it's like you're a big Matt Smith fan. And I'm like, oh, what are you thinking?
And you're a big Series 9 guy, and Series 9's like one of my least favourite Doctor Who
series. 9 is fine.
I'm not a big fan, but like that's the thing. We're allowed to have that debate because it's just normal, and I could never fathom going into any series of Doctor Who wanting to hate it, and it almost feels like that's what some of these people are going in with the mindset of, and I don't get it. Like, I went into Flux, even though I knew I didn't like the Chibnall era, I went into it.
Oh yeah, I think both of us did. Like, we both went in thinking, oh yeah, this looks like something new. It's like, oh, I'm excited.
It's like, oh, maybe they finally, do a time.
And you were positive on like the first few episodes as well.
Yeah, first two I was like, okay, I mean, the Halloween Apocalypse was a bit all over the place, but it's still fun. And then War of the Centaurans, I stand by, is probably my favourite Chibnall era Doctor Who episode, like, probably.
Fair enough.
And then, it was episode 3 where I was like, it's one of these series, is it?
More setup.
Yeah, and I was like, but I never went into it wanting to hate it. I always gave everything a fair crack. Yeah. And I think, I just find it really weird to me that you would, if you claim to be a Doctor Who stan, but then when everyone's hyped and excited about Doctor Who and it's being promoted, you're like, I hate it, why is it being promoted? Like, isn't the whole point is that you want Doctor Who to be...
you want the show you enjoy, exactly, to be doing well and be in the public eye.
So I don't get this aversion to it, but I don't know. Maybe fans are just weird, but I don't know. I'm really excited. I hope that it calms down a bit.
I think it will be. I do see these people being in the minority. I think even when the 50th was out and stuff like that, it's like even fans that weren't necessarily that big on the Matt Smith era, everyone was just kind of hyped around that time. It just felt like a really positive environment to be in. But
they're obviously you have a few people who are like, this is
But I do think that will be a small minority. I think people will just be along for the ride for the 60th. And I feel like it won't be until the start of Series 14.
It's the way it's said for me. If you're like, I'm just not really into the stuff that they're filming for the 60th, I'm not sure I'll like it, I'll give it a try, but not sure.
That's fair
enough. I haven't got much of an issue with that. It's when people are going, I think it's going to be shit, and I think, but before you've even seen it. It's the same with NMD people. For all intents and purposes, and you could debate whether this is a bad thing or not, but
I do think now with NMDs though, they just do it to be on brand.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely.
NMDs are non-existent to me at this point.
Oh yeah, no, but with some of them, for all intents and purposes, they've gotten exactly what they wanted. Chibnall's gone. You've got Russell T Davies, arguably the most celebrated, decorated writer in Doctor Who's history. And
they're like, shit. It's now we can't be. It's like, oh no, all the things we wanted are back, and it's like, but the only thing that brings us in views is negativity.
Yeah.
Fuck. Let's now go with the direction of, whoa, look how woke.
Russell was always bad.
Yeah.
That's the
or going back and being actually, his era wasn't that great.
Yeah.
4 years ago, you were saying that it was the golden era of the show. I can't stand these people.
Yeah, no, they've gotten everything they want as well because David Tennant's coming back. Arguably, the most popular male incarnation of the character has come back. A white male at that. But oh no, another Doctor's coming in who's a black male. What are we gonna do? Sound the alarms. It's shut up. I'm sick of this whole. Again, another example. Neil Patrick Harris gets cast. A white man who's one of the most decorated actors in the industry. But he's gay. He's gay. They're making Doctor
I did see a thumbnail from
It's
I think it was heel versus babyface or something I
think Macarandum was another one as well.
Yeah, just stop. Just shut up.
But what's interesting about that, and I've always said it, there are some of them who are staying the course and being this is terrible regardless, and then there are others being no, this is good. I'm excited, and it's I feel like those people are the ones who just even though they might have said stuff I don't agree with, at least they're not being dicks now.
Yeah.
Like,
At least
yeah,
you're
okay,
not caught up in the whole, like...
culture war bullshit.
Yeah, culture
like,
war. This is the one way of thinking. If we, like, go away from that, then we're, you know...
Yeah, and it's
being
like,
brainwashed,
I kind of appreciate that some people are like, oh, I'm just excited to Doctor Who again. And you know what? Fair enough, because I am as well.
Mhm,
You know?
yeah.
Like, I don't know. People need to chill. I think that's
Yeah, it's like, why... I've never got the whole thing of, like, why do you want to go into something and hate it? It's like, why do you want that to be the outcome? It's
Yeah,
like,
no,
I get being critical, and I get stuff, like, you know... like, you know, if, say, things have, like, aligned and it has a track record, being like, oh, I'm probably not going to enjoy this. But the whole, like, going in, like, actively wanting to hate something has always baffled me. Yeah.
I've never got
Like,
it.
why are you watching the show? Exactly, yeah. It's like, if I think I'm genuinely going to hate something, I just won't watch it.
Like, the thing is with Chibnall, I think hate's probably too strong a word for how I feel about it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I think even with, like, some of the worst Chibnall episodes, it's like, it's still Doctor Who, and it's still the show I love. And even though it does things that I don't want it to, and I'm like, I don't like this at all. It's like, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's not unwatchable.
Like, I would say it's not great, right? Like, that's my opinion on that. I would say it's not great. But what I would say is, like, what am I trying to say? Like, the biggest word I can use to describe Chibnall Doctor Who is frustrated. That's the biggest word. Like, it doesn't make me angry. It doesn't really make me upset. I just get frustrated at it because I think there are some ideas it has that I'm like, this could be genuinely cool.
Yeah, it comes so close.
Just let down in the execution, and that's really frustrating to watch after a while. You know, when you've had like 3 series of that, it gets frustrating, you know? And it's like, that's how I feel about Chibnall. But like, yeah, I've never gone into it being like, oh, I want this to be shit. I want to hate it. Yeah. Like, it's just, I can't even fathom that mindset with anything. Like, the only way I could fathom that mindset, right, is that if, like, someone you hated was in a thing, and you kind of didn't want it to do well as a result of that, maybe?
Yeah.
Or something like that. Like, say, for example, I don't know, like, Ezra Miller, for example, he's been a dick for, like, the last few months. I can understand maybe not wanting to like, or not think, you know, sort of being like, oh, I hope that the Flash movie doesn't do well, because that guy's a bit of a dick. I kind of get that. To a certain degree, even though there are other people working on that, like, I do get that more, but when it's just normal people making a thing, I'm like, just leave them alone.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, closing thoughts though, I think Toymaker is sick. I think I'm really excited, you know. I hope everyone chills out, and I hope everyone stays excited.
Same, yeah, I really hope this energy keeps up.
Because it's so fun. It's so fun just to be happy and excited for Doctor Who again, and like I want it to be maintained.
Oh yeah,
like,
same.
But yeah, and you know, like, even for fans of this era, you know, we'll touch on it briefly. Like, there's merchandise coming out for the 13th Doctor. There's new shirts. You know, there's like apparently new Titan comics. So like, you're still getting the stuff that you want as well. You know, there's still a place for it.
Yeah. I think there'll always be a place for it. Like, even when it's not on, like, Doctor Who is one of those franchises that, like, things will still be coming out, like, from this era. Like, we even know about the Big Finish stuff. Like, we've got Joe Martin stuff. We've got, like, Sasha Master stuff coming up. Like, from those guys. Yeah. Exactly. So there'll always be... Yeah, Doctor Who's one of those franchises that, like, even when the era isn't on, there'll always be, like, bits and bobs you can jump into.
I mean, look at Tennant.
Books, the comics.
Tennant's arguably been playing the Doctor since, like, 2005.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I mean, if you're a Tennant fan, you're just eating good for, like, ever.
Ever, yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'd love it if Smith got some of this energy, you know, I'm just going to say that now, you know, but... Tennant is up there for me, so I'm more
like,
than happy
Tennant
for him
is
to
the
get
most,
in.
like, multi-doctor crossover doctors at this point. Like,
he is essentially the modern Patrick Troughton in that sense of, like, he is in everything, and you know what, I respect it. Like,
I'm here for it, yeah.
Get weirdly upset about David Tennant coming back. At the end of the day, it's kind of a great thing that he's willing to come back and do all this stuff, because he doesn't have to. Like,
because it was that thing of, like, when Time Lord Victorious was going on, and people were like, oh, but it's overshadowing the marketing, and I got it to an extent, but it was like
The thing
that
is,
wasn't
I got it then.
that wasn't
because,
a
like,
problem with like Time Lord Victorious marketing well. It was a problem with the show.
Yeah.
But it's also that other thing of like, to mainstream audiences as well, right? They've not seen all of this stuff. They've not seen like the crossover comics, the big finish. It's like
Yeah.
David Tennant hasn't been on screen for them since the 50th. Like, and that
Yeah.
was 10 years prior. So this isn't as like regular in the mainstream as you might think.
I think that's the thing. I think fans forget that they're like, you know, how we look at the show and how everyone else looks
we live
at
in
it
a bubble.
are like two different things. Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, whereas we're like making up theories about the celestial Toymaker and all this sort of stuff, and you know, how is this going to tie in, and maybe alternate universe, alternate time. Most people are just going, "Oh, David Tennant's back." Cool.
yeah.
Neil Patrick
They
Harris,
don't care.
oh, I like him
Yeah.
from How I Met Your Mother, and you know, like that's how most people react to these things. Like, you know, like yeah. And I think that's more who the show needs to be appealing to right now, above anything. Are the people who are like, oh, I like David Tennant when he was on it. Oh, I'll watch that. Oh, you know, I like Neil Patrick Harris. Oh, Shooty Gatwa, I know him from Sex Education. I'll watch the new Doctor when he comes out. That's
the thing, yeah.
who they need to be getting, and that's who I think they're trying to get.
That's what I hope
the
they
casuals.
do. It's like, yeah, I hope they draw on the casuals, and then they keep them by telling like really good stories.
And I think that's what they're looking to do.
Yeah.
I think, as we've said, they're trying to get everyone on board. They're trying to get legacy fans, you know, younger casual audience, older casual audience, international viewers, everyone. Your grandma's going to be watching Doctor Who.
Yeah, well,
you
that's
know,
the thing. Like, when
your
Doctor Who
dog,
was on,
everyone.
like, back in 2008, 2009, you know, it was like, it was the height of television. It's like, Russell is now an acclaimed writer. He's brilliant at characters. He's brilliant at drama. Like, I can 100% see this like resonating with so many other people.
Exactly, because Russell, I've always said it, he's very good at like having a creative vision, but also knowing how to market said vision. Like
also just being in the know-how, like always being like on top of trends and knowing what's going on.
He's one of those few cases where he can like look at trends and use them to his advantage without it feeling dated and forced.
Yeah.
Like he's one of those few people who's managed to find that balance. And that's not an easy balance to find, but he somehow strikes it. And you got to commend it, really. But I think that's about all I wanted to say.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered, well, like the actual topic stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, like Toymaker, Meep, all the filming stuff. You know.
Yeah.
I think we covered most of it. I think what we want to do with the podcast going forward a little bit, you know, it's as we've said, like, I think we keep trying to do, like, you know, let's do, you know, some less news stuff and some more, you know...
I think going forward, we'll probably, like, if there is new stuff, we'll probably, like, keep it to, like, maybe, like, the first 15 minutes of the episode, and then, like, we'll probably come with, like, more topic-based stuff. I think we want to do a few episode reviews, like, obviously getting a few more guests and stuff on.
Yeah, I think just the problem is, because I'm so busy during these periods, and like you've got stuff to do as well sometimes, like it's hard for us to get together at the same time and do things. And
but that's the thing, after this week, I should be free for the summer.
Yeah. And like I should be, you know, generally free anyway. So
yeah.
I think there's like 1 week in the summer that I can't do. But like, yeah, I hope you all enjoyed today's episode. Subscribe if you're new.
Yeah, follow
us
on the Twitter. Also, we now have a Discord server,
we
so
do.
Join that,
Yeah.
I guess. It's a bit dead at the minute.
It is, but go join anyway. Go join anyway.
Yeah.
We'll talk in there. But yeah, thank you all for watching. We'll see you in a bit.
This has been the Passionate P podcast.
It has not. Goodbye.